A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, we have a special guest today. We have the former governor of New York State, almost 12 years. We have Governor Andrew Cuomo. Governor, you've been very vocal lately, and tell me what's on your mind and what's bothering you.
Well, I've been vocal, John, because as you just reported, there is a lot going on. And how are you, Judge, and how are you, Rita? It's good to be with you.
It's good to have you, Governor.
Have you here.
Good to have you, Governor.
We've been talking about the elections, and today is primary day. But there was a poll that came out last week that, frankly, was more important than any of these candidate polls to me, which said close to 70% of New Yorkers believe that our justice system is politically influenced. Our justice system is politically influenced. And that is frightening. You know, we talk about the threat to democracy. People don't believe in government anymore. They don't believe in the news media anymore. But the justice system was the solid pillar, right? That was the place where politics just didn't go. And now you have close to 70% believing even that is politically influenced. And that the reality is as frightening as the perception. This is relatively new. You know, you ran for office, you subjected yourself to scrutiny. Yes, that was a decision you made. But you didn't subject yourself and your family to a subpoena, right? It wasn't that you ran for office, so you immediately became investigated by prosecutors. That's not our American political system, and that's where we've wound up.
Governor, it's gotten a lot worse. You know what me and you discussed. I think you dared to say you might run for president in 2024. And, they didn't like that in Washington. And Eric Adams dared to say that he wanted, all the black mayors in the major cities. He dared try to fly to Washington and to say to object to President Biden that the cities needed more money. Well, they shot him down.
Well, look, the weaponization of the justice system, I believe, started with Bill Barr primarily, but I believe it has continued. And this is new, and it is frightening, again, both in reality and perception. It's who wants to get involved in politics if you're going to be subject to an investigation by a prosecutor, and your family is, right? Look at Hunter Biden. He may be going to jail, Hunter Biden, and he's guilty, but for something that they would have never brought in the first place. And if they brought, they would have pled the case down. You know, when I was Attorney General, I used to say, John, if I subpoena your taxes and your email, I will find a crime to indict you and probably convict you. But prosecutors are not supposed to target an individual, right? The prosecutor's ethics are equal justice, nonpartisan justice, and avoiding even the appearance of political interference. So we are a long, long way from that.
A long way. And we got to bring the rule of law back to the United States of America. Otherwise, we're worse than a third world country.
All across the board, by the way. I think it pertains to our elections, but it also pertains to misdemeanor criminal actions, shoplifting, theft. The Manhattan DA dismissed most of the cases against these violent protesters who were wearing Hamas masks. And he said he can't make a case because they were wearing masks. Well, bank robbers used to wear masks back when we had cowboys on horseback, and they figured out how to make a case back then, To say today you can't bring a case because they were wearing a mask I mean, it's laughable.
Well, what J. Edgar Hoover used to do, he had a hit squad, and they would go out and just kill him. There was no trial.
Well, the New York City, especially, but cities across the country. But you feel that when the rule of law is not enforced, whether it's the protesters against Israel, whether it's the shoplifters going into these small stores, whether it's people going into bodegas and stealing things, whether it's fare beaters, congestion pricing would raise $1 billion, $700 million a year in fare beaters who just jump over the turnstile and nobody does anything.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's lawlessness. It's just lawlessness.
Yeah, and they want to charge us $1 billion in congestion fees to make up for the lawlessness. And it goes into the bottomless pit at the MTA.
That is, it's $1 billion in congestion pricing, but they won't collect the $700 million of fare beaters, people who just walk on a bus and don't pay, people who just jump the turnstile. It's gotten so bad that you almost feel foolish if you pay the fare, right? Because nobody pays. That's how bad it's gotten. And they say, well, it's an economic crime. We don't want to prosecute. It's a low-level economic crime. All right, then don't be surprised. When you don't enforce the law, don't be surprised when you have lawlessness, period.
Yeah, absolutely. Governor Cuomo, I want to take you back to also because you just made a lot of headlines to your point about sort of selective justice. You also talked about the Trump case. I thought it was really interesting. Can you explain? Because you said that, the Attorney General's case in New York, frankly, should never have been brought against Trump. A lot of people are agreeing with you. Explain your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think you have prosecutors now who, when you run for office, it's almost automatic that you're going to be investigated. And as I mentioned before, I said as AG, if I subpoena your taxes and I subpoena your email, I will find a case, Rita. And you go through anybody, you will find a case. And Donald Trump is a candidate. Joe Biden is a candidate. James Biden is Joe's brother. Hunter Biden is the son. They are investigated, and cases are brought. In some cases, I think they are way out of line, especially Hunter Biden, that he may go to jail for not checking a box on a gun form. It's an ATF form. And there's a box that says, "Are you do you use illegal drugs?" Okay. Now it's a federal form. If you check the box that you use illegal drugs, now you're basically admitting to the federal government that you use illegal drugs. So nobody checks the box. If you smoke marijuana occasionally, you use illegal drugs. So there are hundreds of thousands of people who don't check that box. And here you have a kid who may go to jail. So, yes, I think it's open season on political candidates just because they're political candidates and their families.
You also had comments to make about congestion pricing.
Congestion pricing, a governor for 11 years, attorney general for 4 years, HUD secretary for 8 years in the Clinton administration. I have never seen a situation as messed up as this one. I don't know what they now do, John. You have the federal government approving it. The governor's against it. The MTA board has to vote, but they're supposed to vote by their fiduciary obligation to the MTA, not because they're a political puppet. Can they stop it? Can they have it go forward? I think it is such a legal mess now, the way it's been handled, that they're going to have to bring the legislature back to pass a law to figure it out. I think it's that much of a legal quagmire now. I think you're going to need a new law because whatever they do, they're going to get sued. And as I said, I've just never seen a situation handled this poorly.
We all agree. And the fact is, I've urged the governor not to put it into place because Manhattan right now still has one nail in the coffin, and we'll just be putting a second nail in the coffin.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, the big picture is this state has lost more population than any other state in the nation. And we have to understand that. This is a post-COVID world. It's not like the old days where you can just charge people taxes and the quality of life doesn't matter and the homelessness doesn't matter. They have an option. They will move. They can do remote work. You can be on Long Island, or you can be in Florida, or you can be in the Carolinas. And that's what they're doing. And they're going to continue to do it until we get the message.
The quality of life. And we've had a big discussion on the quality of life, that people don't feel safe walking around. And you got to do something better for the quality of life for people. You don't want to get run over by bicycles and run over by, it's just crazy. You can't cross the street without getting killed.
Yeah, well, look, I think, John, first it's public safety, right? And people should, if you look at the numbers, people are justified in being worried about public safety. And then it's quality of life. It's the cleanliness. It's the homelessness. It's the chaos of the city. Even something as silly as those mopeds and bicycles going, e-bikes going every direction, not following any rules. You can't figure out how to cross the street. You have to have your head on a swivel.
Governor, we're out of time. We're going to have to take a break. Governor Andrew Cuomo, thank you for continue to speak out for the people of the city in New York, and we'll catch up with you again real soon.
I always will. Thank you,
Thank
John.
you.
Thank you.
Judge.
Thank you. Good to have you, Governor.